Okay, let's continue here. Let's continue. Um, for context, in case you skipped over the previous videos, we did a pip install of OpenAI. We did an import of OpenAI, and in the previous videos, I showed you how to access your OpenAI key. I'm going to delete this key after these videos, so this key will not work since this will be posted out on YouTube. So this key won't work. You'll have to use your own key. After that, we did some examples. Basically, we called the APIs from the command line and we got responses. I've removed the responses for right now so that I could have some space. What I want to do now, though, is I want to move us over to a use case on feature engineering. Since I am teaching a class on data wrangling at Miami-Dade College, I wanted to see um, how we can use ChatGPT to guide in data analytics and data science work. For example, feature engineering is an aspect of wrangling data. So I would consider the path to wrangling data to include 9 steps. One, I would say that you should have a structural investigation. Two, you should have a quality investigation. And when I say a structural investigation, I'm really just saying that you need to make sure you import all of the right libraries, import all the right data that you're going to need. Make sure that you eyeball the data structure, things like that. When I say that you need to do a quality investigation, what I mean is that you should look for duplicates, you should look for missing values, you should look for nulls, things like that. Third, you should do a content investigation. And by content investigation, you want to look at the distribution of your data, you want to look at patterns in your data, and you want to look at feature relationships. Um, so that's what you would want to do there. After that, you would want to do an exploratory data analysis. In other words, you would want to do a univariate, bivariate, bivariate, and multivariate analysis. You would want to effectively see what insights you can pull from your data. Okay, from there, we would do probably a feature selection. Okay, we'd look to see if we see any relationships or value in the coefficients. Look at p-values, we'd look at VIFs. After that, we would look at um, feature importance. In other words, RFE, and I'll explain all of these as we proceed throughout the course. Automated feature selection with scikit-learn. And principal component analysis. After that, we would look at, actually I lied to you, it's feature selection um, with data and feature selection with models. So feature selection with data and with models. Okay. And if it's with data, that would be multi-collinearity, things like that. Things like that. All right. Anyway, how to normalize and encode data. Okay. And a few other items, right? But those would be the main things that would be covered as we kind of look to wrangle data from end to end. Okay. So I'm not going to run this because this was just intended to, should have made this a text block. Okay, but I didn't. Okay, but anyway, this is about how we can use ChatGPT to give us context. So what I would do is I would start with one of the copying and pasting one of the prompts from above, and then I would say something like, um, "Give me some ideas on how I can look for duplicates, missing values, and null values in my pandas data frame, Python." Okay, let's do that. Let's set the temperature. Let's set the temperature equal to 0.7. Okay, so the temperature equal is 0.7. And this is what we're looking at right here, right? A quality investigation. Run this. Okay. Then I start to get some ideas. On how I can wrangle this data and look for duplicates and things like that. Okay, so you can see that it's going to give you some good ideas on how to get started. So I would like to take it, a step further. Okay, so I would say, let me copy this code here. I would say now what I want you to do is I want you to write an example method that looks for duplicates, missing values, and nulls in a pandas data frame, and gives a report and recommends ways to remove duplicates, missing values, and nulls. Let's see if it will write the code. Understanding that the code that it generates, it's probably going to need to be touched or massaged a little bit, but let's see what it comes up with. Okay. So here's your define, analyze nulls and duplicates. Okay, passing in the data frame, and you can see that it has decided to. If we go through this code here, in fact, I'm going to go through the code this way. I'm going to copy this first and put this into a code block here. Okay, so here is my method that it created. The syntax looks right so far. We're getting the shape. Okay, so we're getting the number of rows and the number of columns. Right, we're getting the number of null values. This looks right. Number of duplicate rows. Okay, just writing out the number of rows and columns, right? Checking for duplicates, and then just making some recommendations. Okay. So if I run this, there are no errors here. So this would be a good starting point, right, on how to take the items in the data wrangling process and use ChatGPT to assist you assist you in analyzing data. Okay. So let's go one step further. I would say, let's try to see if we can test this out. Let's say create a small synthetic data set in a pandas data frame. Let me say it differently. Give me the code creating a small synthetic data set in a pandas data frame so I can test the. Okay. So let's see if it generates the code to generate some fake data for us so that we can test this method here. Okay, so there we go. There's our code that's generated. Paste this in here. Run this so that I have a pandas data frame. So there's my pandas data frame that it just created with some small synthetic data. So then what I can do is I can then call my method that was created up above here. Okay, and there you can see that the method that it created to give us a quick report on this data frame with respect to duplicates, null values, and missing values. Um, that method actually works. Okay, that method works. So the sky's the limit here. I'm not going to go through every possible use case, everything that you can go through. I want you to have an idea, right, for the process here. This goes on and on and on. If you reach a point where you're uncertain, and ask the question. Ask the question to ChatGPT. So here I'm asking it to write some code that does data normalization on fake data. Okay. Um, in a method and then call that method. That way you have some code that you can add to your library. Let me run this again. Create some Python code that does data normalization on fake data in the method and then call that method. So here's normalizing the data, creating some fake data, and then it's normalizing that data right there. And as with all of this, this is a statistical model, so there is a possibility as your code gets longer that it's going to break. So if we run this, you can see that it is normalizing your data, doing exactly what you asked it to do. Let me just kind of finish this out. Let me finish this out by calling out that the the sky's the limit here. For instance, I can ask it to, how do I select the time series model, for instance? Okay. I'm not going to go through and read that, but the answers I am going to, yeah, okay. So yeah, these are all reasonable. These are all reasonable. And so as you go through the course, right, assume that this is your personal teaching assistant. So if I run here, I'm asking when to use Arima versus Facebook Profit. Okay. In general, I can ask it to create synthetic data so that you can get your code right first on fake data, and then you can go in and start testing with real data. So here is a prompt. Write some example Python code that generates synthetic healthcare readmission data stored in a data frame. Now, here's something that I would say. I would often ask ChatGPT through the APIs to create synthetic data. And if I were you, I would encourage you to consider giving the model the uh, the features that you want. So it generated gender, diagnosis, age, offset time, and stay time. But if you're going to generate synthetic data, you should also tell it which columns you want it to create as well. Run this here. Looks like we have an error. What is the error here? Oh, offset time is not defined. Okay. Off. That's perfect example of what I mean. Offset time was not defined because it gave us a typo in offset time. So I run this. Now it works. So now if I look at the frame.info, I have a data frame with 1,000 elements in that data frame, synthetic data. If I want to see what was in it, what that data looks like, from the header here. And there you go. And the data that it creates is it's synthetic data, but it's on point. It's on point. Okay. And if you run this with the exact same prompts, then there is a stochastic element to this. So you might not get the exact same responses that I'm getting, but it will be good enough. Okay. It will be good enough. Okay, so I think that this is enough. You now have a way to call ChatGPT inside of your Python notebooks. You have a way to ask questions in real time um, and get responses in real time. Okay. So I appreciate your time. My name is Dr. Ernesto Lee from Miami-Dade College. Thank you very much.